got more than the order. Oh, that's good. Good for you. So did I. It was really, those hand grenades were effective.
I enjoyed them all.
I enjoyed them too.
You track them all already? I did. Well, they were delivered last night.
Mine's probably Lori Christmas. Big city of them. Mine's hers. That's it, I know it's, you get a really big up.
Is that technical?
Are we ready?
All set.
Thank you for coming today. As you all are aware, this past week we had an incident on the campus that included what is called an Atlanta flipping, which is where a criminal goes and checks all car doors to see if they're locked. And if they're not locked, then they can look for items of interest. Here, they found very few items of interest, but did go into about 6 cars and actually took 1 car. So Jonathan McMullen, who is the COO for Coastal Security, is with us to review the incident in as much detail as you would like to go through, and kind of step by step how they experienced that early morning as well. So Jonathan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tom. Again, can everyone hear me? Again, Jonathan McMullen, the Chief Operations Officer for Coastal Security. We're going to go over the incident review from last week. As Tom mentioned, it was an opportunity. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, this mask has probably got me off a little bit. As Tom mentioned, it was a... Oh, here we go. Yep, lost the slide here. But you mentioned it was an opportunity theft. It was not one of aggravated nature. They weren't attempting to break into anything. They were simply looking for opportunity of something they could steal that was of interest to them. Bear with us. We have the slides here. I'm going to go through a couple of the reviews of the reports, the interaction we had with the Sheriff's Department. I'm going to cover our response, where we were on property when the calls came in, and go over, and please interrupt at any point, raise your hand, let me know if you have a question about the slide I have or what I'm explaining to you. We take this very seriously. We were working very much with Beaufort County Sheriff's Department, and we still are, to determine all the facts of what took place. And I'll go over some of the other parts and what we're doing with them now to further investigate and ideally prevent this from happening again.
Cut off after that.
Tom's now our IT department, trying to determine on this beautiful new screen.
I'm seeing it, but I'm not getting it. Sorry about that. You go ahead and tell us. Just start telling them.
Does anyone have any questions initially while we're working on our tech support? Yes, sir.
So how do you think these people got in? Do you think they got over the fence, through the gate?
So there's 2 areas of concern that are on property that we've discussed with management, where the fence is a little bit lower. We do believe they were riding is that better? They were riding a bicycle, so they took a bicycle to a certain part of the property and then left the bikes and then entered the property, we believe, through potentially 2 areas where the gate is lower. So they were on foot once they were within Tide Point community. One of the major things, and I'll discuss later, is the Sheriff's Department was able to get DNA swabs from 20 different points within the vehicle, and also some of the cards that were recovered by our staff. So we're waiting for the DNA results to come back, and ideally we've had a lot of theft, opportunity theft, petty theft on the island, and we're hoping that the person that committed these crimes has been arrested before and we have their DNA. So we're waiting for the Sheriff's Department to get their DNA results back. Ideally, we'll be able to know who this was. They're also waiting on camera footage. The vehicle that was taken and parked by Ashton Cove, there was another vehicle that was taken, and we think it's the same group. A few parts of Hilton Head Island were hit on the same night during the same time. There was another vehicle that was taken near Victoria Square, about mid-island. So we're waiting to hear back from them. They think it was correlated, or they think they were working together, or friends, that were, working to do this. They think they tried to do this to overwhelm law enforcement all at one time. So they're all responding to one incident, and other, break-ins are taking place. Okay, thank you, Tom. So we're going to go over, again, our staff that were on site was our staff sergeant, Elkett Forbes. He's also our operations manager. He's one of our higher mid-level management that was working on site with some training and working with our third shift officer, who was Officer Major, who was also on site the night of this incident. I don't know if everyone can read this, but I'll read it out loud so you can hear it. It's a big screen, but we had a lot of narrative from our report. At 5:40 a.m., a concerned resident from the neighboring property stopped at the gatehouse and asked our officer if he had seen anyone riding bicycles. He told him we had not. He said that the bikes that were laying on the grass further down the road from the gatehouse. We advised him to contact Beaufort County Sheriff's Department so he could provide a detailed description. At 5:54 a.m., we received another call at the gatehouse from an unknown caller. We later determined that was someone from the maintenance department of Tide Point, who asked if security was on patrol, and we stated yes. We had one person at the gate and one person patrolling. The caller asked if our security officer was wearing a black hoodie and dressed in black, carrying a book bag. That is not us, folks. So that immediately had us concerned. At that moment, our patrol officer, Officer Major, had just returned to the gate just before 6 a.m., which is when we have a shift change. He walked into the gatehouse. The caller said he saw a black male, tall, skinny, dressed in all black, wearing a hoodie and carrying a book bag, walking very quickly towards the office area next to the pond. Our staff sergeant left the gate and immediately went to patrol that area. 2 minutes later, Beaufort County arrived on property, which met with our staff sergeant and updated the officer on everything that we knew, and they both began patrolling the area. When they came to Freshwater Lane, our staff sergeant began a foot patrol to check the park area, and as he was walking towards the park, he began finding the credit cards on the ground. So he contacted Beaufort County. They came out to that location. He found various cards like medical insurance and ATM cards. We looked over the side of the walkway and found a small wallet with more items in the ground. We contacted our dispatch center and the other staff sergeant that we had on duty. He also notified Beaufort County of the location of those items that we located. When the officer arrived, they searched the area and they did not find anyone. And our site supervisor, Sergeant Craig Whitty, he arrived and he went to 45 Freshwater Lane, and county responded to that to assist them because we now were getting residents that were calling, basically stating they had noticed some disturbed areas. This is kind of a map overview that gives you an idea of the incident location and where we were. The red is the location of 66 Freshwater. That's where the vehicle was stolen from. The blue is the location of our officers that were on site at the time. Officer Paul Major was back near the care center behind the clubhouse, and Staff Sergeant Elkett Forbes was at the gate. The yellow is the location of where they found the vehicle that belonged to the resident of 66 Freshwater. So they didn't take it very far. Like they said, it was an opportunity theft. They don't believe the person that stole this vehicle really realized what they were doing because it's a much elevated crime to steal a vehicle. And they took it, joyrode it, and left the vehicle parked by Ashton Cove. Beaufort County later determined it was the owner, Alexis, who they gave her a ride back to the car, confirmed it, took all the DNA, collected all the evidence, and then turned the car back over to her. Might be a little bit difficult to read, but we got all of the reports from Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. I wanted to just show this. We have all of their reports that align with ours. We've provided them to management. When we get the follow-up from the DNA, that's when they'll know more, and we can update you all on this case as it's being investigated. This is pretty much a very similar synopsis. It's really when the complainant, who was Alexis Weeks' vehicle who was stolen, this is her narrative that came back to Beaufort County Sheriff's Department. This is the second report, which discusses our interaction with the staff when Beaufort County was on property and we were locating the different stolen items, the credit cards. So they have included everything there with the report numbers of everything that was turned over into evidence. So all of our staff are tracked via GPS every minute, second during their shift. So we went back just to review where they were on site during the time of the call for the incident. Officer Paul Majors, you can see from our GPS, he was located back here near the 300 building. They were actually assigned to observe and watch that building because the fire panel had a test error. So we were observing the building to make sure nothing went wrong during the evening. These are some of the reports that were written by our staff. Every report, every checkpoint they scan is recorded and logged. They have to patrol every hour, write certain reports, and go to different areas during tours. This is from Officer Paul Major. We were having issues with the fire alarm continuing going off in the 300 building, so he was patrolling all floors and taking pictures. This report here is from the site summary around the time where we locked the gate and when our checkpoint scans were. So we have documented timing of where our staff were during the event. We reviewed our third shift just to get an idea of what our staff, the activity during the overnight shift. So it's really 11 p.m. to about 6 a.m. On average, between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., we scan about 40 checkpoints on property. So our overnight patrol officers scanning all over the property. 8 different tours, so we have interior tours for the clubhouse, locking procedures. We have external tours around the perimeter of the property. For instance, one checkpoint is on this door over here, that white or the black token up in the top corner. That's a checkpoint. To give you an idea, they have to go to that and scan it, and it records it during their shift. And we average about 15 reports overnight, documenting various things that we see or take place on property. In summary, the 2 officers that were on site, again, Officer Paul Major and Staff Sergeant Elkett Forbes, were monitoring the gatehouse for vehicle traffic at the time where it was coming up to shift change at 6 a.m. They were assisting the Tide Point Clubhouse with fire watch when the incident occurred on Freshwater Lane. When called upon, our Staff Sergeant Forbes was able to respond within 5 minutes to assist Beaufort County, and he was the one who actually located the cards and wallet. We're continually working with Beaufort County on this incident if they need further information. And our sole purpose is and remains to ensure the safety and security of the residents of Tide Point to the best of our ability. So we're going to work towards getting the answers to this. We take it very seriously. We're providing management with everything we know. We have a great relationship with the Sheriff's Department, and they're working with us to get us all the information once they hear back again from the DNA results. We're optimistic that those results will ideally give us a suspect. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
What's your turnaround time on DNA?
That can depend. We're thinking probably 2 weeks to 1 month. They ship it off to a lab.
2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
So this was a coordinated attack. Here in Victoria Square, is that right?
They believe so because the timing was very, synchronized.
Just 2 incidents?
There were 3 total incidents near Victoria Square and I believe just off Matthews Drive. They're trying to find correlation between them, and they also got DNA evidence. They also have some camera footage from where another vehicle was stolen when they parked the vehicle, there was a camera there. So they're trying to gain the footage to determine if they can get any image from who left the vehicle. But
Where
that,
exactly did it come onto the property?
for the Tide Point incident,
Yeah.
there's two areas of concern. We kind of spoke with management about that, where the gate is low, where your perimeter gate. One is right at the end of Freshwater Lane, which comes from the, forgive me, I forget the street or community that's just, Spruce Court, yes. And then the other side is Broad Creek Landing. So right over on there's a entryway where the gate is low. And we've walked the perimeter, we've found it. We've talked about a couple solutions, so we're going to try to see if either a camera solution or something could be done temporarily to monitor those areas. Any other questions? Can I assist with anything? Yes, sir.
I don't know how much activity happens overnight here, even though I've lived here a long time, but how do you feel about, or how many cars leave the premises, I guess, between midnight and 6 a.m.?
Very few. Very few.
But I mean, is there any thought on either checking the cars that go out, or looking at them, or having a camera that shows the cars that go out, or if you're in the guardhouse and you see a vehicle, headlights coming at 2:30 a.m. just to sort of walk over there and watch the car leave? I don't know.
It could be an idea. The one thing about the gatehouse is it doesn't have any windows in the back, so we wouldn't know that a vehicle's approaching. We've discussed a couple ideas. We actually have it's called a driveway bell, but it makes a sound, a tone in the gatehouse when a vehicle enters. We discussed possibly putting one for the exit, so we know when a car's exiting the property, like you're saying. We could potentially implement something temporarily. And another idea is we provide at least a few cameras for ourselves internally in the gate. We were discussing putting one that will face the exit. And best case scenario, we would at least get a vehicle description and a timestamp, and ideally a license plate. Yes, sir.
So just wanted to clarify that point. Do we have an incoming and outgoing video camera on the car, the vehicles coming in and going out?
Currently, we only have incoming, so the ingress at the gate, as well as internally in the gatehouse. And those are our proprietary cameras that we provide to monitor our staff's activity, because our dispatcher watches our staff 24/7. Someone had a question. Yes, ma'am.
The car that was stolen, was it unlocked and was it parked in the driveway instead of in the garage?
It was parked in an open garage, and yes, it was an opportunity theft. It was an unlocked car. The keys were in it. The garage was open. They were walking the community, and they walked up to that property, and they found that the vehicle was unlocked with keys. Yes, ma'am.
Can cars come in, the outgoing? In other words, you've got the highway, you've got coming in. Can't they come in that one? So if they're not being seen, can they come in that way? In other words, can they sneak in the way they're supposed to go out?
So someone would enter through the exit?
Yeah.
It's possible. After hours, that would be very noticeable to our staff. That would, and also be very alarming. They know which one they're supposed to use. In a case like that, our gate officer would likely radio the patrol officer and say, I just had a vehicle that was a white SUV, just entered the exit. It's heading in the gate now. Please intercept that vehicle and find out why they would go in the exit. Yes, sir.
Couldn't they ride bicycles in there and you might not see them?
It's possible. Recently, we changed the lighting in the gatehouse to remove a lot of the glare off the glass. After hours, if it's very dark outside and you turn the lights on, the overhead lights, it's very difficult to see outside the windows. We recently changed that. And to answer that, yes, we would likely notice anyone riding a bicycle within the property. So we did not see anyone enter the gate at that time. Our cameras did not show anyone entering the entrance of Tide Point through the...
They probably wouldn't ride through the entrance, they would come in the exit, or through the woods, right on that grassy area, push your bikes through there. Between when you're going out and back in there to the right, that big open area.
Yes, sir. And if I can, I'll back up on 2 slides here. There was 2 areas that we believe were potential for entry into Tide Point. I wonder if... So here's our main entrance here to Tide Point. On the back of Spruce Court, we believe there's one gate area where the gate is low that someone could have potentially entered, and then there's another side off of, would have been the top of Freshwater Lane, there's a gate that's very low here where the drainage ditch is. So those are two areas of concern. We've notified Beaufort County. We're going to actively patrol those two areas or put checkpoints exactly at those locations. So now our staff are going to have to patrol all the way to that area. We're going to add another light to our patrol vehicle and golf cart, so we're a little more visually observant, to people in the community. So we're going to do a couple other things that can aid with that. There was someone else with a question. Yes, sir.
How long has that garage door been open?
I wish we knew the answer to that. They didn't disclose that to Beaufort County. They did not know. They said it was mistakenly left open. So I would...
understand that, and I'm just wondering the people that are in the carts, the security, it would seem to me that they would be aware if they went past a house and the garage door was up in the middle of the night, that they might be concerned about it.
Yeah, and they typically will tell the owner and ask them for anything. All right, they could close it. They were on fire lot over in 300 building.
Okay.
Yeah, so our patrol officer had to go to a stationary post, or mainly stationary to the 300 building. Yes, sir.
Is this type of activity happening on the other parts of the island, or are we just exclusive down here?
No, it's unfortunately become pretty common for Hilton Head. There's been many golf carts stolen, a lot on the south end of the island, primarily in the rental areas, the tourist areas of North and South Forest Beach. This has been very common. Opportunity theft from a local to the tourists who are only here for 7 days, 10 days. They're trying to steal anything out of really a tourist vehicle. We don't know why Tide Point was targeted or selected.
Well, it has been happening in the Point Comfort area.
Broad Creek Landing also had a few vehicles that were sorted through. So it was really just this general area of Point Comfort that, and also Victoria Square. Yes, sir.
Since this is not the first time we've had intruders in here, is there anything else you can think of that we should be doing to prevent this from happening again in the future? I know Tom's talked about keeping your car doors locked, which I think is a great idea, and keeping your garage doors down. But is there anything else that we should be doing? You know, when they get in here, they have access to the clubhouse. They have access to the 301 building, to the 501 building.
So,
we're getting a proposal on cameras at this point, and the location of those cameras will be at every garage level elevator for the clubhouse, for both of these buildings, for the care center, off the care center, at the entrance, and at the park. So we're talking about a total of about 9 to 12 cameras. We'll be presenting that to the board, and hopefully including that in the capital budget. If not, we'll push to have it done off budget. So I know Jonathan's working right now on a proposal on that, and we're getting another proposal as well. So we can take a look at covering those vulnerable areas.
So that's the one main area where we're working with Tom and Tide Point from a general grounds area or way to prevent. We're going to have a lot of cameras that will assist us with, especially in the gatehouse. They'll be able to see a lot of the property quickly and then notify our patrol officer if they see anything suspicious. From a residential perspective, add any sort of motion light to your area, your driveway. It's very dark here. So if you have a motion light, that's very preventative to someone who might be intruding or trying to, come onto your property, as well as very simple cameras from a residential, again, standpoint. If you add a Ring doorbell or an exterior security camera, those are also great because with a motion light and a camera, we're generally going to be able to identify who it is or get a very good description. But they're also a great preventative measure if they're very plain sight and made aware of when they come on a property, a motion light turns on and they can see that there's a camera there, they're likely to not pursue what they're doing. We're changing as well and looking at our analytics. We looked at the third shift and their activity. Again, we're going to change our patrol tours. We're going to add extra checkpoints and make it so that their patrol it's never routine now. We know if they can pattern us, or they know it every night at 8 p.m. we're at this location, and 9 p.m. we don't do that unless it's for only locking and unlocking. Those are generally a timely task that we have to perform, but we're going to adapt our patrols to be a lot more random and also add checkpoints to these areas of interest where we think they might be coming on property. Yes, sir.
Jonathan, do you have other locations similar to Tide Point, where it's a gated community, where you're seeing this kind of activity?
Yes. One of the neighboring, actually assisted living communities of Seabrook, we had the same thing. Someone actually stole, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, our security vehicle while our officer was locking doors inside. And they got to the gatehouse where our officer was there and present, and they stopped and ran through the woods. So there's been a lot of small, petty opportunity theft. It was someone just going for a joyride. I don't know, it was 3:54 in the morning. So yes, again, we're even seeing it at a security perspective where any opportunity they can take something, drive something, that's the thing. So locking doors, shutting, just really make it a part of your nightly routine to ensure that everything's locked and shut down. We've been seeing patterns in storms, so if it's predicting bad or inclement weather overnight, these thieves we think are actually tailoring their theft to inclement weather. This evening we didn't have any bad weather, but rain generally prevents you're not going to go outside and retrieve something from your vehicle, so you're likely not to be outside or going outside in the rain. So just another kind of piece of advice is that if you do see inclement weather, it's generally a heightened awareness for opportunity theft. They don't mind walking around in the rain stealing things. Any other questions? Thank you all for your, yes sir.
This is maybe getting too far out of the weeds, but since there's only one way to get to Hilton Head Island, you have to go over this bridge. Does the Beaufort County Sheriff have a camera looking at every license plate that comes onto the island?
Not yet, and it's been something I've actually personally requested. The traffic cameras are there, but they've never integrated any sort of LPR system. They have them for 46, the highway leaving towards going to Savannah. There's a few LPRs there, but that's actually a part of Bluffton City. So I don't understand why the town of Hilton Head wouldn't integrate some sort of LPR system. It's very common in Florida. There's other states that are utilizing it. But it's a little above my pay grade, but I've definitely pushed for it. Any other questions? Thank you all for your time. If you have any other thing or need anything else from me, please reach out to Tom. We can provide any answers, and we will be following up with management once we hear back about the investigation from the DNA results, and ideally have some good answers. So, thank you. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, David.
Yeah. Do you want me to stick around?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Appreciate it, Jonathan. Okay. Okay. We have several other things to cover while we're here. On a great note, we have 29 sales for the year to date. We have 3 in progress. We really should have number 30 by the end of the day today. Units that are currently listed, we have 7. 3 are the Cape Charles 1-bedroom villas. 2 are the Cape Hatteras 2-bedroom villas. And 1 is the St. George, which is the largest corner villa. And then 1 St. Augustine, which is the middle veranda. We had 3 closings in August, 5 in September, and we plan on 3 in October and at least 1 in November. So that the sales are going very well. Fire alarms that went off earlier on the night we were just talking about on Wednesday night were from a faulty smoke detector in the elevator, probably due to dust. They're sensitive to that in that they're ion detectors. We immediately sent out the next morning the instructions. There seemed to be some confusion about what to do. The simplest way to know what to do is go to the nearest exit and get as far down the stairs as you can. If you're compromised from a mobility standpoint, get as far as you can and stay in the stairwell. Fire department would help you get out if indeed there is a fire, but just go on the other side of that fire exit as far as you can go. And then go out. You've seen the instructions at this point, and we will be doing fire drills. Coincidentally, Fire Safety Week is next week. You'll be getting some information regarding fire drills. We'll run the fire drills in connection with the Hilton Head Island Fire Department. They'll be on hand to also answer any questions you may need, and that is for the 501 and the 301. You get a schedule on that. Should be going out today or tomorrow. And one other concern was that people couldn't hear the alarm in some areas of their home, like the farthest from the hallway. The hallway, they're very loud. We are first checking the decibels to make sure they're at the appropriate level. There are adaptive devices you can get that will flash in your unit. And we're looking at a better way to use alert media. Most of you can hear your telephone if it rings in the middle of the night. And so we can use alert media to also send out that message at the same time. So we'll be looking at a procedure for that as well. Can anybody not hear their telephone at night? I think most of you can hear that. But we would send it out to your telephone, text, app, and email all at the same time like we do the alert media. And so that's another backup for people that have hearing compromise. Okay. COVID related, the positivity rates for our county continue to go down, which is good. We're now under 9%. Hospitals are still full and operating under strict protocol. That's a kind of a new difficulty that is probably only 6 or 7 months old, where the hospitals are also at capacity. The good news for us is we have no current cases, no current positive tests for members, residents of the care center, or any of our staff. So we're really doing well on that. Yesterday we did the flu shot. We postponed the Moderna. We'll be looking at that again and try to reschedule that as quickly as possible. There was just too much controversy about it. The news was really focused on the FDA approval. The Moderna has never been approved for use by FDA except for emergency use. So we've got to kind of let cooler heads prevail, or as I said yesterday, let the smoke clear a little bit, because it had really been in the news a lot, and we weren't willing to take any risks, particularly on the same day as the flu shot. So I think we can do it safely and safer. Yesterday went very smoothly. I appreciate all of you doing that. Thank all of you for showing up at 9:30 when it was scheduled to be at 10. That helped us really move it. I mean, we did about 40 people in the first 15 minutes. After that, it was a breeze. We have upcoming on October 22nd, our 25th anniversary party. We did change over to reservations to make sure that everybody had seating. We're going to do this a little bit differently than we have done large parties in the past to try to be safe. And there'll be a full description of that will be going out to you soon. I've already written it. I'm just getting a couple of sign-offs from the chef and Kevin and Deanie at this point. And the way this is going to work, we'll start at 5 o'clock. The band will begin at 5 o'clock. The band will be right outside this area. These doors will be open, but the band will be out here. It's a trio, John Brackett Trio, great little jazz group. And then the dance floor will be all in here, and then seating around the dance floor. We won't be serving any food and beverage in here, but we will be serving food and beverage pretty much everywhere else in the community. Our wait staff will bring the plates to you, really in 3 courses. It'll be starters and appetizers in the first course, heavy hors d'oeuvres in the second course, and dessert for the third course. And it'll be series of small bites, 5 or 6 items to the plate, and your table will kind of gauge when you want to do that. So when your waiter comes, they'll ask you when you'd like to start. If you don't want to start for a while with your table, you can do it later if you like to go ahead and eat. We will have 4 bars set up, our 2 regular bars, as well as a rotunda bar and champagne and wine bar in the living room. So we should have plenty of access. We have about 250 people scheduled at this point. We will have, throughout the night, we'll have historical slideshow going on here, as well as on Touchtown through the whole evening. We have also planned displays of 25 years of memorabilia, including advertising, documents, etc., that'll be out for your display. And the president of V, Randy Richardson, will be here, as well as his entourage, the senior vice president of operations, the vice president of operations, and the senior vice president of human resources will all be here. We'll give them about 5 minutes to talk. I'll introduce the members that are original members that moved in 1996. And that is Dr. Neil Leverett, who's now 102. And he will probably sing. And then also Carol Fowler, who's also been here for the 25 years. And we have 3 employees who also have made the 25-year mark, and that's Denny Wilmot, our sales director, Rhonda Ashby, our housekeeping manager, and Deborah Drayton, who is in the culinary department at the care center. So they've all been here 25. We have a lot of 24 or 24 and a halves. But when Deanie started, when she was 12, she was actually in a trailer out on the construction site. So Sandy Gilliam, our director of accounting, is almost there. You've passed 24, right? Yeah, so she's almost there. I might even mention her. And we have a couple of legacy members that I'll mention too. George Hall's mother, Helen Hall, was one of the originals. And also Frank Beard's mother was here as well. Stella Beard was one of our members. So I'll give them a mention as well for the party. like I said, we'll send out a little kind of directions on how we're trying to be safe and still let you have fun. The bars will be open, so, you know. Our 2022 operating budget is underway. We'll be pencils down with V on the first run tomorrow, and then we'll be reviewing it next week with them. Following that, we'll be reviewing it with the Finance Committee and then the Board of Directors. There are some major items that will affect the budget this year. There were wage adjustments that had to be made to some of the lower wages this year in housekeeping, culinary, for the most part, kitchen. And then our employee health insurance is up pretty significantly. We've been able to really keep that low over time, but it's going up a little bit. And then the food expense this year we've just seen really increase. So those will be some items, as well as property insurance, which we're really not sure till November on that, what our property insurance is going to be for the whole community. So we'll be looking at that. Misha Mann, who's on our design team for the refurbishment, she's leading that team, will have all of the financial information for us to go forward. They've presented the conceptual. We had our committee provided to them conceptually what they wanted the refurbishment to look like. They came back in August, all agreed that was what we were looking for, and now they've put the dollars to it, and we'll know about that in about 2 weeks, mid-October. We'll have those numbers, which will go back to the refurbishment committee as well as the finance committee, and we'll be reviewing the scope of that project, what we could add in, what we can take out, et cetera, and still stay within the budget. So that will be upcoming. We hope to really start on it in earnest about January 1. So we did have some interesting nighttime noise in the 301 Villas in one particular area, and we were really struggling to figure out what it was, because if you're not there to hear it, it's hard to identify what it was. We thought it may be air conditioning, it may be plumbing. There's a riser in that area that could be making noise if air was in the lines, or worst case, squirrels, raccoons, or something like that. It was kind of a scratching noise and a wheezing noise. So did you hear it last night, anybody? I think we got it. Okay, and I think it was mechanical. I think it was air conditioning on the roof. So hopefully we have that. We're going to keep an eye out, report it if you do hear something that sounds like scratching or wheezing in the middle of the night. That's not you. So we're looking into that as we speak. I'm going to go through the financials. If I can bear with me just a tad here.
I promise to get better at it. Okay. All right. One more try before I give up. Well, onward through the fog. I'm not quite sure how I didn't connect. Let's see, one more try. Got it. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, this is our report to the Finance Committee through August. Our investments with Raymond James and Money Market, we have $641,000 in CDs. South State and Money Markets, we have $1 million. There's an extra 5 in there. I wish it was that, but it's $1,594,000, and our interest year to date is $10,000. Our total reserve fund at this point is $2.2 million. We like to keep $1 million over and above any expenditures. Right now, as we're awaiting the refurbishment of the clubhouse, we're at $2 million too, and that bills as we do large projects. When we did the painting and resealant of the entire community over a 3-year period, we were up to about that point before we had those expenditures. And then the last refurbishment that we had about 12 years ago, we were up to that amount too. We don't like for it to drop below $1 million. Okay. we didn't have very many expenditures for August. The really good news was one partial air conditioning replacement, which is huge for August. That's usually when it hits. We had some structural window and door replacement, about $6,400 there. The clubhouse refurbishment, some work done there, including the presentation in August, and one water heater and the AV system that you're currently experiencing. Believe me, it's great. I just got to figure out how to use it. So our total expenses for August were at $54,000. Typically, we have about $100,000 that comes in every month, and then somewhere around that goes out, which keeps us level. So we had a good month that month. Total contributions, as you can see, for the 8 months, as I said, is about $100,000 a month. Expenditures have been pretty similar. We had budgeted at this point to have spent more, hoping that the renovation would be able to get started. So we're favorable by about $300,000 at this point. This is our treasurer's report. You get a copy of this every month with the president's letter. Our revenue has been strong. Major areas were in beverage. Keep it up. Also more second persons than anticipated, and maintenance revenue from turnover of units as well. Our contributions to the reserve are about $34,000 more than anticipated in the budget. So that mainly is coming from the 2 months fees at closing that go directly now to the reserve. So our net operating funds after the contributions to reserve taken out are favorable by $75,000. Our operating expenses are unfavorable by $90,000. Food has been a large part of that. Some supplies and supply chains have been compromised as well. And then the mid-year adjustments on some of the lower salaries to retain employees was another part of that. So we'd anticipated the deficit at this point to be at $88,000. We're at $104,000. So we're about $15,000 unfavorable to budget. We do have built into this about $20,000 of designated COVID-related expenses. We do have insurance for pandemic, and so we have from 2020 and 2021 probably $50,000, $54,000, I think, in COVID expenses that can be recovered at some point. But that may be several years down the line before any of that insurance is settled. So we are anticipating that. Our revenue, as you can see, our monthly fee revenue is favorable. That is due to additional second persons. So we love the couples coming in. And then, as I said earlier, food and beverage revenue is the next one. I think the majority of that may be wine, but I think we're following a little bit behind in liquor. So you know what to do. And then the other services revenue is mostly maintenance revenue. And that maintenance revenue comes from our participation in turnover units, either for the buyer or the seller for the most part, or special projects that we manage. So that's where the $74,000 favorable statement is. As you can see in culinary, I think $75,000 of that, or about $10,000 a month, is in culinary, and dining services has been favorable due to basically a labor shortage. housekeeping and laundry is over from earlier in the year that we were using some contract labor. Member services, which is back on budget now, was about 10,000 over. A little part of that was some bus repair, and then the rest of that was payroll during the heavier areas of the pandemic with staffing when we were taking orders and had people quarantined, et cetera. Maintenance is about 50,000 over. Some of that is timing from the power washing and window washing, and we should see that true up. Wellness center is favorable. Administration is favorable by about 40,000. Our insurance, which includes our property, liability, flood, et cetera, is over by about 20,000. And then every year, we really don't get that number till after our budget is in there. Attempting to get closer with that, but that is what our property insurance is, and then human resources is favorable to budget as well. Any questions about the financials through August? That's where we are for the month. Is there anything anybody would like to talk about? Yes, sir, Mr. Kaminsky.
If you had a prior commitment and you couldn't make yesterday's flu shot, what's your recommendation?
You can go to Burke's or CVS. Call first so they're ready for you. But I know at Burke's yesterday there was, there were 4 or 5 people there getting the Moderna. And if you want to go ahead and get the Moderna, they're also available at Burke's and CVS. So you can, if you want to, go ahead and get them. We're thinking you probably ought to wait in between. Initially, all the pharmacists and doctors were saying it's no problem to do them together. Then a lot of controversial information came out, so we delayed that a little bit. But if you want a flu shot or a COVID shot booster from Moderna, you can get those at either Burke's Pharmacy or CVS, and probably Walgreens too. Walgreens I would definitely call first because they seem to be short on labor. And also shingle shots. If shingle shots are appropriate for you, you can also call Burke's and get those as a 2-part shot. And so if you're wondering about it, go ahead and do it. Good question, thank you. Yes, Mr. Schreiger.
Are there any restriction reductions with COVID anticipated in October? Because you said for the gala that you can bring a guest if you want.
Right.
So, I mean, that would be coming into the clubhouse. So was that portending anything else with other restrictions that will happen in the next few weeks?
No. No, I'm not.
So like when we meet for bingo, we used to have outside guests.
You can. You
can
can have guests.
Okay.
I made that announcement last week, I guess, that guests will be permitted in the clubhouse. We do ask that you wear a mask if you're not eating or drinking.
Can you tell us how many flu shots were given out yesterday?
No, I can't. I meant to get that information and I didn't get it yet. I'm thinking near 200. Just from what I was saying, I think near 200. Good question, and I did mean to have that number today, but I didn't see Sherry, who's the keeper of the number. Okay, yes, sir, Mr. Neal.
How much longer with the mask? What's your best guess on that?
I really don't know.
Because
It's working, you know? That and the vaccines are working for us. We don't have any cases. And I would hope soon, but I really don't know. Anything else for the good of the group? Anything you're worried about, excited about, would like to share with the rest of us? Thanks for coming.